Thank you so much on behalf of StormGeo for the opportunity for us to speak at this great conference on this also extremely important topic. I'm representing StormGeo. I would like to, as mentioned, talk about how we use tech, weather, together to give some practical examples on how we can drive decarbonization. And since we're talking about tech and AI, I was thinking maybe I should present StormGeo in a little bit different way than we usually do. So I asked an AI tool, ChatGPT. I keyed in, please give me this short description of StormGeo as a company on how we can use AI and digitalization to drive down carbon emissions. And this is live from AI, presenting of us. We are coming from weather and tech. We are combining the two forces to give decision support into our clients. We are specializing within three topics in StormGeo. We are looking into shipping companies, that's the largest part of StormGeo, but we're also in 20% of all offshore projects for oil and gas, and 30% of all renewable energies for offshore wind. So StormGeo is already working a lot with that. And we use all AI and digitalization and data into this, so we can reduce fuel consumption and thereby also reduce emission. And we are using a lot of AI into our tools today, and see how we can then use, optimize a route, making a voyage from at sea, from port to port, the most efficient as possible, and also looking into performance of the assets where we go. And using these tools, we'll also show some examples, we'll also drive down carbon emissions. Some other topics also, we are serving around 13,000 vessels annually in StormGeo. We are, and here we can actually see AI sometimes take a little bit wrong, we are operating in more than 20 offices in 20 countries, so AI was a little bit wrong on this one. We're part of the Alfa Laval group, owned by 100% by Alfa Laval. And we're also a signatory to UN Global Compact, so we have also been working, we're quite passionate about decarbonization in StormGeo. And the challenge was raised and talked about with many people today, and we heard a lot about all the new regulations coming into place, whether it is the CII, Fuel EU, EU ETS. They're putting a lot of pressure on the shipping industry to drive decarbonization, which is of course a very good thing, but it's also challenging. A lot are pointing to green fuels. We also believe in green fuels being the long-term solution to this. But as we heard this morning in the first session also, that the availability of green fuels is a challenge. And what we are doing while we're waiting for green fuel to be readily available is to also look into energy conservation, how we can drive a more efficient voyage. And to do that, AI and digital tools are a fantastic tool, because we are here to change behavior of those people operating the vessel, sitting on the vessel, sitting on shore, and giving them good advice during that route. And to make this demystify a little bit, I would like to give you a personal example. This is a picture AI generated from Norway. In Norway, we are driving a lot of electric cars. You can maybe not see it in the back, but I have a quite heavy right foot, so I like to drive fast. I have a Tesla. That's the fastest car I ever owned. And the minute I got that car, I have to admit that I was just seeing how fast it could go. And we saw the speedometer going up to a quite high number. And I believe there was also another part in that vehicle where I suddenly saw. That was the consumption of energy. In electric cars, you see that all the time. How efficiently are you driving? You can see in this graph here, I was driving rather fast. I was going fast, and I suddenly saw, wow, there's a lot of energy leaving my car right now. And as you can see in this picture, Norway is a long country with few people. It's not so easy all the time to find a place to charge your car. So I got a little bit nervous, and then I started to look into the efficiency of how I drive my car. And suddenly, I moved the interest from driving fast, being the fun part, to see how efficient can I drive. I have a winter cabin up in Norway, so I drive down from the mountains also. Then I can actually, the first 10 minutes I go home, I actually generate energy by driving my car downwards. So now I changed behavior. I'm not driving so fast anymore because the Tesla is helping me to see how efficient can I drive. And then going back now, I'm not talking about cars today, I'm talking about shipping. I would like to do a little bit of a history on voyage optimization, which we see as driving as efficient from port to port. And it's a very old thing, voyage optimization. It started with this gentleman, Admiral Robert FitzRoy. He was actually the captain of the Beagle. That's the same vessel as Charles Darwin had. But he's also the founder of the UK Met. And what he saw was that during these voyages back in the 19th century, 20th century, we saw weather as a bit chaotic. It was a lot of weather. When weather hit that vessel, that could be very, very dangerous. There was a lot of shipwrecks, a lot of people lost their lives because they could not cope with the weather part. So what FitzRoy pioneered here was he used an electronic telegraph to send warnings of a storm coming. So for us, a voyage efficiency always started with safety, and that's important for us when we work. We always start with safety. But voyage optimization has developed a lot during the years. And what we see now, how we see an optimized voyage today, and how we can drive down decarbonization is a lot of different steps happen simultaneously on the voyage. It starts with us having, with these 13,000 vessels, we are doing approximately 72,000 routes per year. We have more than 40 years of weather data in our solutions. So we are able then to sit here and look into this route, use AI, use weather to see what is the most efficient way to go. So you can plan also for commercial purposes, because we are driven by commercial activities, and how we can combine that also with the environmental efficiency. Then we start at sea, we start to route the vessel. That means that we give advice. We don't drive vessels ourselves. We give advice to the vessel. How should you go? We start, as I mentioned, with safety first always. But once we found safety, covered safety, we also look into for the client, what is your goal with this objective? Is it to reach a certain RTA? Is it to drive as fast as possible? Or is it to maybe reduce your bunker consumption as much as possible? Then we use quite powerful algorithms to see how can we take this vessel, can we use all this data we have to find the right way to go. And here we use a new evolutionary model, as we call it, where we are combining a lot of different voyages with different speed settings. Typically, we can then do 13 different voyages at 9 different speed settings per 3 hour. That means that after we have spent 3 hours, we can do about 150 voyages. Then we multiply that after 3 more hours, then we're up to more than 10,000 voyages. 3 more hours, we're over 1 million voyages. And up to 15 hours, you see in this example, we are 2.1 billion voyages. This gives us a lot of data points where we see for that vessel, what is the most efficient way to go, what weather will it hit, and how can we advise this vessel to drive as efficient as possible, so we don't waste a lot of bunkers and emissions on fighting bad weather. We are also continuously using an AI tool to look into each separate vessel. Every vessel is a bit different. It has its own history and own performance in the weather. So we see how is this vessel performing at different weather events. That means that we learn. We use approximately 2 years of data all the time, because after 2 years data is a little bit too old, and see for this specific vessel, how will this perform in these different weather conditions. And that helps us again to give the right suggestion to the vessel and the master where you should sail to sail the most efficient way. So there's a lot of data points in there also for the vessel. And then during the voyage, it's happening all the time, new things. It can be that weather change. That means that we need to divert, we need to change the course of this route, also to drive down emissions. It can also be that you have different commercial goals, seeing that, okay, now, because of these commercial goals, I have to change my route. It could also be now, we also see some of our major shipping clients also asking, can you help us to route for environmental topics, such as CII? It might not be commercially sound, but for some reasons it could also be beneficial for that specific ship. Because they say, right now, I would like you, StormGeo, to help me to see how can I optimize this route so it improves my commercial numbers in the best way. Another very exciting part we have been working on in StormGeo, and also part of Alfa Laval, is look into wind and wind propulsion. That's also giving us a new way to look into all these routes. Doing all these 2 billion voyages we do, if we combine in wind, that's suddenly it changes how you see a route, because traditionally we have been looking into how can we avoid that wind, because this wind will slow us down. Now we're trying to actually capture that wind. So that is and also allowing us to see what would be the best course, how can wind affect you when you're also doing this voyage. It's a very fascinating thing to see, and we are also believing that this will also be wind as a propulsion is an exciting topic that we see our clients are using. Yes, and then we are also, during this voyage, We also see how can we adjust your power settings. So it means that if you are hitting a little bit bad weather, but you know that tomorrow the weather is going to be good, makes sense to slow down, to not use too much of energy fighting bad weather, and rather use that energy tomorrow when it's better weather. It's a little bit a similar thing as when you're running uphill. If you're running at the same pace as you're running flat or downhill, it's exhausting. So we try to keep the same power going up the hill. It runs a little bit slower, but when we're on top, we can go faster again. Having given that advice also to the voyage is saving significantly amount of emissions and fuel. So that is how we do an optimization today. And then what we also see is that we can also then map out from the vessel. We get live the data. How is the asset being used? Are you running too many auxiliary engines right at sea? Have you turned your boiler on for too long? How is the trim of your vessel during this route? And is your hull being cleaned in the right manner? So that means that we are also actively using data from the vessel. It can also be live fed into our systems, giving real-time advice to the onshore tools, so we can see what can we do to reduce energy consumption of the vessel during this route also. And the latest thing we have stepped into in StormGeo is also that during this route, we are also identifying which will be the ideal bunker port for you to stop at. So we are using an AI tool to read all the different bunker prices, knowing the specs of your vessels, knowing the specs of your tanks, and the fuel types you're looking for, and we give you live advice during the voyage also. So that is how we see the voyage today, and if you compare that to the first slide I shared with FitzRoy, it is just a lot more data. And I think that what we see is that many people are afraid that AI coming and taking all our works. I see almost a little bit opposite. The more data we have, the more information we have, the more complex and difficult it is, because we have to also talk to people about executing the voyage, giving them the advice, translating the advice. Sometimes it will be conflicting advice we give. So we in StormGeo also believe heavily in people and combining tech and people. Half of the people, we are about 700 people in StormGeo, are working in operations, sitting, talking directly with our clients, whether they're sitting at office, whether they're sitting master at sea, and giving live advice. And we have people sitting globally. We have more than 10 operation centers. We even have one in Dubai. People sitting, talking to clients. We are going out, sitting with clients, doing live training. We believe that if we want to harvest the gains we can get from an optimized voyage, we need to talk about with the client and train them. We have live performance analysts sitting with the clients, looking into vessel, how can we make them more efficient. And here you can see a picture also from our operation center. These are people sitting live, looking at weather. You see out of the screens, giving all this advice. So we combine all these people, we combine it with tech, and we think that's also how we can support our clients to drive down drive up decarbonization number. And this is the effect that our clients made. We don't do the decarbonization ourselves, we just give advice. But during last year, we saved more than 500,000 metric tons of fuel and more than 1.5 million CO2 saved. So with that, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you.